Opening Night Live had a big confirmation, and that is that the rumor I talked about yesterday, Indiana Jones on PlayStation 5, it came out as truth. So basically, Indiana Jones is confirmed for the PlayStation 5. It will launch in spring of 2025, and the game will come out in December of 2024. The game is looking great, make no mistake, but I am left wondering, what does this mean for Xbox going forward? So if you haven't been following, long story short, back in February, there was a lot of concern from Xbox fans about losing any sort of exclusive that they might have previously been hyped for on their specific console or just within the Xbox ecosystem. Well, today I feel like Microsoft made it very clear that they are going to be more aggressive with releasing their games on multiple platforms. As you can see here, Microsoft confirms Indiana Jones is coming to PlayStation 5 after its Xbox debut. Another Xbox exclusive is coming to PlayStation 5 in 2025. Now, the reason this is notable is because back in February, when they were talking about the exclusives that would make their way to other platforms, they said that those games do not include Indiana Jones and Starfield. And now 6 months later, it's very clear that Indiana Jones is one of the titles that were in development for the PlayStation 5 at that time. If you know game development timelines, there's no way that they just spun it up last month and hit file save as PlayStation 5. So that leaves me wondering, was this a big misdirect from Phil Spencer to sort of calm the masses about the potential of not having an exclusive on their console for the holiday season? I would say yes. And I feel like a lot in the community feel lied to. They feel like this is a very strange announcement to have just several months after you had an emergency podcast where you were trying to clarify, hey, we're not going to be releasing all of our games on PlayStation. We're just going to do it here or there. So I've been tweeting a bit about this, and just to collect my thoughts real quick, if you asked me 6 months ago, if I thought we'd see all Xbox games on PlayStation 5 or Switch, I would have said you're crazy. Today, yeah, they're going full slate. Probably not tomorrow, but it seems inevitable. It seems more likely than ever that Microsoft will definitely be releasing more games on multiple platforms. And while in the grand scope of things, that's good for gaming. It's good for gamers that want to play more Microsoft games. It does leave Xbox in a bit of a weird spot. What does that mean for the Xbox ecosystem going forward? You're not going to sell more consoles if you're releasing your tentpole exclusives on another platform just a few months after they were on yours. You're not talking about 2 years like with PlayStation's strategy of getting their games over to PC. You're just talking about a few months. And at that point, it makes your console, even if the next one happens to be the most powerful console ever, like I've talked about in this video, I'll link to up here in the annotations, it leaves people wondering why they should invest in your hardware. Now, I got community noted on one of my posts, or so here it is. It's not Indiana Jones or Starfield. Phil Spencer on Xbox games going to PS5 February 2024. Context needed. That statement from Phil Spencer was in regards to 4 specific titles going to PlayStation 5, which neither of them was Indiana Jones or Starfield. The fact that the world right now is looking back on these statements and the Verge interview where Phil basically said, we'll never say never about games coming to other platforms. It was 6 months ago. This isn't the difference between the Bethesda announcement where he said this is about getting exclusive games where Game Pass exists, and now fast forward to today where basically none of the Xbox games that have been made by Bethesda have really been exclusive now that Indiana Jones is going to another platform. The reactions to this are just baffling to me. Phil Spencer feels like Phil Spencer was being misleading, dishonest, and like, I don't want to say lying, but he is using a tactic where he's not saying quite the right thing, so he has a way out of it later on, right? Like, it's a very smart tactic, but at that, I'm surprised more people don't feel misled by those statements. So there's two sides to it, right? Am I upset that Indiana Jones is coming to PlayStation 5? No way, because I get to look at Indiana Jones on Xbox and PlayStation 5 and determine how it runs on each, and make video comparisons about that for my full-time job, and just have conversations about that. And more people get to play Indiana Jones. I think it's sort of interesting, and I do imagine that it will sell very well. But the question is, where does this leave Xbox in terms of their ecosystem and their plans for the future? I said on that video talking about next gen hardware that I think they're going to go more open than they ever have before, where you'll be able to boot up PlayStation games from PC, from Steam, or Xbox games from Xbox Game Pass. And now I think this just further solidifies that strategy. It makes no sense for them business-wise to make exclusives anymore. Their console hasn't sold, so they don't have a large enough install base to sell through there. Many people are getting access via Game Pass. Like, Xbox needs to come out and sort of explain what their strategy is or what their vision is for the future at this point, I think, because to me, I don't really understand what they're doing, and people are mad at me saying I'm being misleading when the CEO, when the guy running the whole Xbox division is coming out and saying things 6 months ago like, oh, those games aren't Indiana Jones or Starfield, which leaves the whole community to have this will they, won't they for the rest of the frickin' year. There's rumors of Forza Horizon 5 coming to PlayStation 5 this week, and Starfield. I'm hearing, people are bringing Starfield back up and being like, oh, that one's going, and I'm one of them. I'm like, yeah, at this point, well, you said it's not Indiana Jones and Starfield. Well, okay, obviously those are going. Like, that's my reaction to it as somebody that's covered Xbox for years. And it leaves them in an interesting place. As a console enthusiast, what is your incentive to buy the most powerful console? If it's not something like what I described, that's going to be an interesting proposition for them to make to their fan base. And I think they're just in a really weird spot with these announcements, because are they just getting out of the console business? Like, it further solidifies that argument for me also. Like, the console sales have not been going up. I do wonder if they're looking to make something where you can just access all of your games and it's basically a PC, and they're tearing down at least their exclusivity ecosystem while PlayStation maintains it somewhat, and Nintendo keeps everything locked on their box. At the end of the day, what does that mean for the industry if Xbox keeps releasing their exclusive multi-platform? Is Xbox going third party has been a big conversation that's been coming up. And I think all of these conversations are totally warranted and worth having right now. And it's something that I'd be curious to hear about y'all from in the comments below. It's left me feeling very strange, because you compound that with the fact that Black Myth Wukong is talking about doing a Xbox release in the near future. And the reason they didn't is because, like with Baldur's Gate 3 last year, where Xbox also missed the boat on having Baldur's Gate 3 day and date, this hardware. It's like a hardware issue, something about the Series S. A lot of people make that joke. But something's going on there. And there's this indie game coming out and just saying like, hey, I'm not getting adequate support. Like, things are taking too long. And like, none of that looks good for how things are going at Xbox right now. And as somebody that's covered that brand for a long time, that's a little bit concerning. At the end of the day, though, like, let's say worst case scenario, even if you would consider it worst case, Xbox ends up going third party and you can buy Xbox games wherever you want to play. I guess that's fine at the end of the day, but I have to imagine that people who have purchased into the Xbox ecosystem for years and, been brand loyalists are certainly going to be upset. And I'm left confused about the business strategy. If you're going to release your games everywhere, there is no reason to buy your console anymore. So are you going to stay in the console business by 2030, which is the timeline for the end of the life cycle of whatever the next console ends up being? What is the game industry going to look like if it's just PlayStation and Nintendo in the hardware business? PCs largely aren't advancing a lot. Like you still need, I still got my big PC rig. I know that's not for everybody. It's just left me with a lot of questions. And that's my reaction to the Indiana Jones coming to PlayStation 5 reveal. I'm still working through it. This video is a little bit more rambly than my usual ones. But like people are like, oh, look how mad Destin is. I wouldn't say I'm mad, but I think it's interesting that Phil Spencer had an emergency podcast to tell people Starfield and Indiana Jones are not coming to PlayStation 5, only for 6 months later to announce that they're coming to PlayStation 5. And people are like, there's more content. Like, he didn't quite say that. He said they were announcing 4 games today, and it wasn't those today. But in a Verge interview, he said, well, never count them out. It's just like, of course he knew the whole time that the PlayStation version had to have been in development at that point. So we were always marching towards this date. Game companies don't just hit file save as PS5, file save as Xbox. This is not how it works, right? So, yeah, I feel a little misled by Phil Spencer, not only with the Bethesda statement when he said this is about getting exclusive games in places Game Pass exists, and that didn't happen. And then with the statement that Indiana Jones and Starfield aren't coming to PlayStation 5. I'm not upset, but I do feel misled. And I think a lot of people feel misled also. So I'm seeing a lot of people, I don't know how else to say it. They're coping. They're coping really hard on this one, or jumping up to defend the Xbox brand when they should be asking, what does this mean for that brand into the future? I mean, they'll make more money for sure, but when you don't need to make hardware anymore and all of your money is coming from your competitors, do you just get out? Like, what's the profit incentive to remain in? And it's a pivotal moment because it is a major temple exclusive that they went to Disney. They advocated for getting exclusively. They talked about during the FTC trial about it being exclusive. They came out on a podcast and reiterated that game would remain exclusive at least for 6 more months until they announced it would come to PlayStation 5. And it leaves me feeling less trustworthy of where Xbox is going. But I want to hear your thoughts. Let me know what you think about it in the comments below. Hit that subscribe button, hit that bell. I got to put this up, and then I have to leave immediately because I'm late for a thing. But I'll see you for the next one, everybody. Bye for now. Thank you for the members. I got to update this. Tons of members on last weekend's stream. I really appreciate it. If you want to become a member and support this channel, click that join button and check out my video about where I think they might be going with hardware and why this just further bolsters that idea. Thanks for watching, everybody. I'll see you for the next one. Bye for now.